So, hi, this is Mana. This is the first exercise of this small series. It is beginner basic on animating an illustration. We'll talk about simple things first, like blinking, light animation, and keyframe interpolation. This project is done in Clip Studio Paint Pro. We'll use this version so majority of people can follow. You can also use the X version for this, much better. The raw files and the final files of this project will be at the link below. You can download that so you can follow along. First off, let's open our illustration. Ctrl O on your keyboard or click the icon on the canvas tab. Okay, as you can see, the image is on JPEG and it's a one-layer image. Also, this is Pochi. Hi! First things first, what's the animation that we have in mind? I'm thinking of blinking and some lighting animation. Okay, for the lighting, we don't really need to redraw or cut anything for that, and so we'll just move on to blinking. For the blinking, we need to separate the eyes from the body. To separate that, let's use a selection tool. Use whatever selection tool that you want. I usually use lasso and selection pen. And just select the whole eyes area. When you're done, Ctrl X to cut and then Ctrl V to paste to a new raster layer. Remember to rename that layer as well. And now we go back here to the main illustration layer. We need to redraw this empty area where the eyes where previously was. I'm so sorry about the background noise. I'm just going to get a lasso and select this middle part. Ctrl C to copy and Ctrl V to paste to a new raster layer. Move that newly pasted area to the blank hole. Okay, so do the same with the other area. And when both holes are covered, just remember to combine all the main illustration together, except for the eyes, of course. So now we have them eyes separated from the body. Let's now work on the eye expressions, okay? Now let's work on doing eye expressions. What we are doing next is we are making another eye expression because this eye, the one that we extracted from the main illustration, is actually our open eye. And now we need to make a blink or a closed eye. We'll make a new raster layer or Ctrl Shift N, and we just need to make a closed eye like blinking. I'm just going to use the selection tool and I'm going to fill that with color. Since the design is very easy, we just need to make one. Then go to layer, duplicate layer, and just adjust this duplicated eye copy to the other eye. So again, merge these two closed eye or Ctrl E on your keyboard. Make sure this layer is still renamed as closed eye, okay? And that's it. We now have our eye expression. Some eye expression can range up to 6 or more expressions. It usually depends on what kind of animation you're doing, but since we're doing a very basic animation, a quick open and close eye is okay. Alright, let's go animating now. So, let's get our timeline. Go to Window, Timeline, or if you have a workspace for it, please load that. Now click this icon on the Timeline tab. Let's make a new timeline or a sequence. Rename this as Pochi. Frame rate 12 FPS, playback time 24. Image interpolation, whatever bothers your egg roll, I'm going smooth. Frame rate also depending on your egg roll. Let's start from 1 so that it's easier to follow. And just click OK when you're done. First, let's do the light animation. As you can see, I labeled this as version 1 because I will make 2 versions. First version is light flickering, second one is light going on and off, okay? The first one will be flickering. So now, let's make a new raster layer or Ctrl Shift N on your keyboard. Let's rename this one as light_1. And let's now get our gradient tool make sure it's on foreground to transparency. Change the shape to circle or ellipse. I'm going ellipse. Pick the color of the strip lamp or hold Alt on your keyboard. The mouse changes into an eyedropper, and let's get this color. Okay, so now we make light. Make sure your opacity is at 100. If you can see your gradient opacity, click the setting or the wrench icon here. Go to ink, put an eye on the opacity, and just press X to close. And here's your opacity now. Click at the middle of the light source, drag your mouse and try to make a circle. Fix the angle, and then click again to let go, okay? We can change the blending mode to match it with the drawing. I'm going overlay on this one. Now let's go here on the timeline area. Make sure that light _1 is selected, and then we click enable keyframes on this layer, okay? You'll see this transform on the naming convention of the layer. This means this layer is now keyframe ready. To start, make sure you're on Operation Tool, under Object Subtool, on the Tool Property, under Transform Options. Let's go here, onto the Layer Opacity. Before we begin, make sure you check your Keyframe Interpolation. We'll be working on light _1 layer using Smooth Interpolation. Now, drag your playhead to the beginning of your timeline. Frame 1, add a layer opacity keyframe. If you want to see your keyframes on the timeline, click the plus icon besides light _1 layer. Okay, now we go to frame 6 and go back to the opacity chicken. Move this slider to at least 50%, and it now gets a keyframe, right? Next, let's move here to the 12th frame, and let's make it again to 100. It automatically gets a keyframe by just moving the slider. Alright, let's try playing that. Light is changing opacity, right? Let's continue. If you want to copy and paste some keyframes, just select the keyframe, right-click copy, then go to the time that you want, right-click paste, or select the keyframes that you want to copy, for example, this 50% and 100%. Hold Alt on your keyboard and drag these keyframes to the location that you want, and just let go. Okay, we now copy pasted our keyframes. Alright, so let's try playing this again. Alright, that looks good. Good job. Again, move the end keyframe to the very end of the timeline, especially if you want to make a loop. Alright? Why is that? Because this beginning key is half a frame, and the ending key is the same value but is playing at 1 frame. So that's the same value playing at 1.5 frame. That's kinda long for me, especially if I'm aiming for a loop. And so when we move this here, it's now half a frame. The same with the beginning, making these two keyframes the same value to play at 1 frame, okay? If you want to move the other keyframes, just so because it's still saying that it's not aligned properly to the numbers, you can just select them and move them, alright? And when you hit play, okay, the change is subtle, but it helps if you want to create a loop without having any freeze frame, alright? Now let's make the animation or the light animation version 2. So we will animate this lights at the back. This is the light on and off, okay? So again, make a new raster layer or Ctrl+Shift+N on your keyboard. Rename this one as light _2. Get your gradient tool, foreground to transparency, shape ellipse. Okay, so I don't know how to explain this in English, but make small alternate lights for these ones at the back. Alternate, okay? Alternate. And change the blending mode to color dodge or whatever lighten or contrast blending mode that you want. You can change the hue if you want as well. Just go to hue and saturation or Ctrl U on your keyboard. Change the hue slider Now make a new raster layer again. Ctrl-Shift-N on your keyboard. Rename this one as light_2 1. This layer will be for the alternate light that we skipped on earlier, okay? Get your gradient tool, foreground to transparency, shape ellipse, and just add gradient on the remaining lights, okay? Again, change the blending mode to the same as light_2 layer. Change the hue if you want as well. Okay, now we animate this too, okay? Make sure light_2 and light_2 1 is selected. Then click on Enable Keyframe on this layer. Make sure you're on Operation Tool, Object Subtool, on the Tool Property, Layer Opacity. We'll add a keyframe here at the beginning. But wait, before you add that, change the Keyframe Interpolation right here, this arrow, click this, change this one to Hold. Hold Interpolation holds the keyframe until you change it to another value, okay? And so we'll be using Hold for this slide. Let's start now. Make sure that you're at the beginning of your timeline or frame 1 on light_2. Add a keyframe at 100%. On light_2 1, add a keyframe at 0%. Okay? Now we move. Let's go to frame 7. On light_2, change the value of the layer opacity to 0. And on light_2 1, change the layer opacity to 100. Alright? Let's try scrolling our playhead. Can you see? Alright, let's talk about hold interpolation for a bit. Let's hide this light_2 1. On light_2, the value of the first frame is 100, and it will hold that value until the next keyframe of a different value, which is the 7, because the 7 is on 0. Okay? Simple, right? Okay, let's unhide light_2 1, and let's just copy and paste these values again. Select them keyframes, hold Alt on your keyboard, drag the keyframes to your desired location, okay? That's it. It's very simple, right? And when you play that, alright, let's now go to blinking animation. We'll work on these eye expressions that we did earlier. So make sure you have open eye and closed eye selected, and then we click Enable Keyframes on this layer. Make sure you're on Operation Tool, Object Subtool, under the Tool Property, Layer Opacity. We will stay at Hold Interpolation, okay? To begin adding keyframes, we don't necessarily need to always start at the beginning of the timeline, okay? We can start here at frame 5. So let's add a keyframe for open eye and closed eye on frame 5. The animation will start with Pochi's eye open, okay? So open eye will be 100%, closed eye will be 0. Then we move the frame 9 because Pochi will blink now. So open eye will be 0 and closed eye will be 100, okay? So let's scroll that to see. Okay, can you see? Simple, right? Let's continue because Pochi now needs to open her eyes. Let's say on frame 11, open eyes will be 100 now and closed eyes will be 0. Okay, let's play that. Okay, right? Simple. So Pochi wants to blink again. Copy paste these two keyframes on closed eye and copy paste again these two keyframes on open eye. Again, select the keyframes, hold Alt and drag to copy paste. Alright, so let's play that. Again, it's simple, right? Okay, another quick recap. Frame 21, if Pochi wants to blink, open eyes must be 0 or hidden, and then closed eyes will be visible or 100. Alright, and when Pochi wants to open her eyes, frame 23, closed eyes must be hidden now, so that open eyes will now be visible. Alright, gets? Alright, for exporting animations, my most preferred method is image sequence. I prefer doing the GIF and movie on my own so I can control everything. To export, go to File, Export Animation, Image Sequence. Image sequence will export my animation frame by frame, so it will be images and not a video type, alright? These settings looks intimidating, but just make sure to select your export destination. Check your image type, JPEG is okay. Check your size. Also, check your frames and frame rate. And just click OK when you're done. The images will be on the folder destination, and you can throw this at whatever software that you have that can do GIF or video editing. Okay, so that's it for beginner basic exercise. The next exercise will be beginner animation. We'll talk about anime blinking, some simple mouth movements, simple hair animation, working with shadows and lights, importing and using stock footages, and we'll also handle some problem solving, alright? Again, the files for this are at the description below. Feel free to download them so you can try this out yourself. Okay, so stay safe, wear a mask, wash your hands. I'll see you on the next topic.